Welcome to this week's episode of the How To's. Now for our host, Dr. Dimitri Brad.
How did your faith as a believer affect this in this time? Not that you weren't walking in it at any other time, but how did your faith, kick in when you're sitting there? Okay, I'm laying in a hospital bed. I'm sure they're telling you whatever they're telling you. Yeah. It may not be good, and obviously in your heart you were like, man, I'm gonna play again. I mean, this is not
100%.
I'm not letting y'all write me off and saying this is over. So I remember seeing you after the surgery. I remember you come to my house probably a little bit after the surgery, and so tell me about how your faith played a part in helping you in that situation.
Man, I got to give my dad a lot of credit, and I usually give my mom mostly all the credit. I love my pops, man, but when I broke my foot in high school, I remember there's a handful of times that I remember breaking down and being this emotional, and I felt like I let my family down when this doctor told me I couldn't play my senior season, and I remember calling my dad. They came up there, and I felt like I let them down, right? And he looked at me and he said, son, I put everything in you that you need. At this point, you got to decide what you believe.
Right.
And I think it was something that, for whatever reason, when he said it like that, it was like something that went off of me, like, you have a choice. Like, you can decide.
Right.
And I don't know why I heard it different at that point. He wasn't concerned about what happened. Right. He wasn't insensitive to the fact that my foot was broken.
Right.
But it was, you have to decide what you're going to believe and what you're going to do about it.
That's right. That's right.
I can't do it for you.
Right.
If you want to play this year, if you want to do it, then you do it.
Right.
And you believe it, and I'm here.
You exercise your faith.
I'm here to, to go through the process with you, but I can't do it for you.
That's good.
And for whatever reason, it was like that. I think that foundation, because I mean, they raised me. I went to church, and they raised me in a strong background and environment, gave me a strong foundation. But it was that message of when these things happen, you decide what you're going to do and what you're going to believe, and you control the outcome.
That's good.
And I think that just when this happened, fast forward my injury, it was the same thing when I sat in the hospital. It was I got to decide what this outcome is going to be and what I'm going to believe. I know what I know, but I got to make a decision of how I'm going to handle this thing.
So you really had to exercise your faith. I mean, that sounds like you had to exercise your faith. Hey, listen, what do you believe? Because it does come
100%.
to a point as a parent having a kid that, and I've got 2 kids, that you can't do it for them. At some point, your faith is going to be responsible for the outcome of your life. And so when you decide to basically grab life by the horn, so to speak, or by the handles and say, listen, this is what I believe, this is what we're going to see happen, you can kind of start, at least begin the path of walking that out. So if we were talking to somebody who was experiencing any kind of setback, even in the middle of your setback, one of the first things you got to do is decide what you believe. Just because the situation is bad doesn't mean it's all over. You got to decide what you believe. And I love what you said about writing a vision. Man, write down where you want to be. Because just because you got a setback doesn't mean it's over. And I believe that's one of the things the enemy wants to do, is try to convince you that, you know what, your life is done. You can't come back from it. Whether somebody's dealing with a family situation or divorce or athletic situation where physically you are impaired and can't do what you used to do, at least at the moment. It boils down to what you believe. Amen. It boils down to what you believe. So let's talk about this, because I think this is something I want to discuss. A lot of athletes, when they get to a spot like the one you were in with the ACL, well, it's probably more than the ACL, knee injury that's serious. A lot of people don't come back from that, man.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people don't come back, and then after they get an injury, and then they're not playing. I mean, that can be borderline depression for some people.
Yeah.
But you didn't seem to let all of that kind of, I can't say let it get to you, but you kept moving forward. How were you able to do that? Even so let's fast forward a little bit. You've had the surgery, season's over. Yeah. You talked to the Redskins or whatever it is. I mean, how did you push through all that?
Man, it was a series of phases and progressions for me, I would say, in growth. Because you go from that stage of just frustration, anger, but then at some point it's like you can't be frustrated anymore.
Right.
Like that the tears, like you got to have those, but it's like, okay, what now? What am I going to do with this emotion? And then now it becomes a determination and a passion.
Okay.
So now it's like I'm going to use all this emotion to figure out I'm getting back. It's like, okay, once we decided I am getting back,
right.
Now it's how, right?
Right.
How is this going to happen? What do I need to do? Because this is going to happen. Who needs to be here? And so that's your mindset.
Let me ask them real fast. Did you have to get, because I want to talk about this a little bit. Did you have to, I'm not saying silence voices, but I'm sure you got a lot of people in your ear about what you should and shouldn't do.
All the time. I mean, every day.
About this is it, do this, go over it.
Every day.
Did you have to silence some folks?
Every day.
Like, okay, listen, I just can't deal with this one.
Every day.
I can't deal with that one.
Constantly.
I can't take this phone call.
Constantly. I mean, people, I really think, and myself then, you hear about, when you go through things that define you, or you see your relationships with different people and all that, and it may not necessarily you see, you have all these people flocking you one day, and the next thing you know, you're at a low point and they leave. It's a matter of when you make certain stances.
Right.
When you take certain stances in your life, it's either people who don't think, or either some people can get offended.
Yeah.
When you take certain stances, right?
I like that. And that becomes a line. That becomes
for me,
yeah.
I mean, even with, and I'll share this with my family.
Right.
I severed ties. I won't say severed ties, but we went through some tough times in my family because of some things that, and some of it may be extreme, and some of it was maybe a little bit misguided. But for me, I had to do what I had to do to get where I needed to be.
Right.
And nobody was going to stop in the way. Nobody was going to come in the way of doing that. And if you were in support of that, great. But I wasn't going to wait for your opinion, because at the end of the day, I knew what I saw and I knew what I wanted.
Right.
And I just had to get there. And again, like I said, looking back at it, there's some things that I could have done a little bit, been a little bit more understanding about. But from the standpoint of, you need to do this, or you need to do this, or why are you doing this, or why are you going here, or why are you spending this money, or why?
I love it.
I didn't have time for all that. You know what I mean? And so I remember having to ignore people, or delete certain numbers, or change my number, or change people who I was working with. Yeah. I mean, I went to the point where if it was a trainer and I came in there and the first day you said something about me not coming back, or the odds of this, I'm going somewhere in the next week. I didn't even have time for that level of.
Yeah. You couldn't entertain that.
For me, I couldn't do it, because if you weren't on board with this thing, I had to go another direction.
A couple of weeks ago, I was in a series called Life Skills, and one of the things I talked about was focus. And sometimes focus appears to be rude. But I do believe when you have that much on the line, and those around you sometimes can't tell, I think you should have the space, whether they want you to or not, to make a decision and say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. And not that you're for me or against me, but at this moment, in this season in my life, I can't allow you into this space, because it can contaminate what I got to do.
No doubt.
Jesus did that. I mean, he was going to pray for the girl. He went into the room. People laughed at him. He put everybody out.
Yeah.
Why? This requires some focus. And so I'm all for that. Because if you're going to come back from something as that serious, and then you really going to do it, it takes all of your focus. And the last thing you need to do is have to entertain a bunch of people saying things contrary to what you're doing.
Right.
So, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. I think on that, man, I think for me it was, part of that is it's a fine balance, because there were also some people who I had in my life who I wasn't leaning on as much that I needed to.
Right.
And some people who knew me, some people who knew the core of who I was, and they knew where I was going, right? And they knew I would share it, whether it's yourself, or whether it was my best friend, or whether it was my wife or Key now.
Right.
Certain people who I would send them, when the goals that I had and things, and when there were certain decisions that I would run past them that would help, so it was not necessarily, the focus wasn't necessarily in trying to cut all these people off. It was more so gravitating towards the things that were getting me, that were pulling me in the direction to keep my focus and my, keep my focus where I needed to be.
That's good.
But I think that I can't go any further without, for me, it always comes down to my vision. Mm-hmm. As long as I can see something, then I'm okay. I've been like that since I was a young kid. As long as I can get a picture of something, and I can keep it up here, I'm okay. Yeah. And that, I noticed for me throughout that process, that changed. Sometimes it was writing something on a sheet of paper. Sometimes it was just putting something up and keeping it with me. I mean, in my wallet, I still keep stuff on my screensaver.
Right.
Sometimes it was I remember a funny story, man. Rakia talked to you about it. I remember just sitting in the car, and we're driving, and I said, act like you're Oprah. And she was like, what? I said, just act like you're Oprah. Just started talking to me. I had just left the doctor, hearing some terrible news. And so I needed to get a different picture in my head.
Right.
And it just, out of nowhere, I just said, act like you're Oprah. And she was like, what are you talking about? I don't feel comfortable. I said, just act like you're Oprah and just start asking me some questions. I said, man, forget it. I'll do it myself. I'm gonna act like, I said, forget it. Don't even worry about it. So I started talking. I'm having this conversation in the car with myself. I'm interviewing myself.
Wow.
So first I was Oprah for about 5 minutes. And then I was this chick from ESPN. And then I was this guy from, and I was a person from 60 Minutes. I forget who's the person from 60 Minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I literally went for about 30 minutes having all these conversations and interviews with myself. Well, how did you come? The fact that I'm even sitting here talking about a comeback, I had this conversation with myself.
Right. Oh, I love it. I love it.
4 years ago.
I love it.
It's just now coming. I had this conversation with myself 4 years ago. How did you come back? Well, what did you do? Well, what would you say to somebody? And I'm sitting there, and she's looking at me, and I said, I don't need you to, don't worry about it. Don't try to anticipate now. She's like, oh, I see. But
you were creating visual.
I had to create some type of, because I can't control the environment. When I leave my house, I can't control what people are going to say.
That's right.
What I'm going to hear, what people are going to do. But I can control, like when I write something, I can see, okay, all right, I saw this image, this x-ray, but I also can see this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you got to, again, without vision, people perish. You need a direction. I need to be able to see something. And
Absolutely.
I like it. As long as I don't need you to see it. As long as I can see it, then we're going to be okay, long as I can see it. All right. Well, it sounds like that we need to kind of wrap up this segment. We're going to come back, but we'll have more with my good friend Tim Hightower on the How To podcast. And again, stay tuned. Tune in and to our YouTube channel. Find us on Facebook and on Instagram. It'll be a blessing to your life. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching the How To's. Please like and share the video and leave a comment below to tell us what you think. You can also visit us at dimitribradley.com for more things about Pastor Bradley. And please, don't forget to subscribe to City TV.